Today we'll walk from the St. Andrew's School Bridge at Potong Pasir all the way to the Balestier estate, hopefully along the canals and PCNs. Well, unfortunately the Kallang PCN is interrupted by the expressway. I think it's Whampoa Expressway, and we have to climb over the pedestrian bridge somewhere down the expressway to get across to the other side of the Kallang River. Well, we see St. Andrew's School again. Fortunately or unfortunately, the students now don't have to run around the muddy field like we did in the old days. They even have a swimming pool. And in front of us is the old premises of St. Andrew's where I used to study. I think this is where the boarding house was in the old days. These high retaining walls was where a slope was that took us down to a dust bowl where we used to play hamtam bola in the old days. There was some bushes which led us over to the residential estate on the other side, which we are going to go to shortly. Now the pedestrian bridge is finally coming up. You can catch a better view of the old school. 3 stories, and I've been through every one of those. And those are the apartments in Opal Crescent. They have been there for a long time. Maybe some are new, but some existed even then. And I always recalled our teachers telling us those are off bounds. Though it was separated from us only by a bush. It was an interesting bush where kids will run in and settle the score fighting each other away from the eyes of the teachers. Plenty of butterflies, dragonflies, and a funny beetle. The beetle was a strange one. It would buzz. It's a pretty big one, maybe half an inch, and it would buzz when it's thrown onto the ground. And the kids used to challenge each other to find a beetle that will buzz longer, and be declared champions. Quite a bit of development since then. And you can actually see the Kallang River ahead of us, but we still have more detours to do before we reach it. Not easy trying to hold the camera steady and walking the steps at the same time. Oh, they call it Moonstone Estate now. Moonstone Lane. It's been here for as long as I remember. Still pretty much the same, not too much crowds, but a couple of good food, with the hawkers of course changing all the time. We are finally back to the Park Connector. Park Connector actually opens up to a rather grand view, a view that I appreciate a lot. This possibly is one of the widest stretch of the Kallang River. On this side of it, it leads actually towards Balestier, Toa Payoh, and the other side really leads down to the Kallang Basin. Though a lot of people will refer in books to this area as being part of the Kallang Basin. In those days, it was just one huge muddy area with all kinds of industries, people living together, sandpits, farms. Well, this is a 300-degree look at this environment. Bowling building is a pretty old building, but the one next to it, Dewey Residence, is really a new residential development. It was good that they kept the facade of the lower floors here, which used to be a beverage factory. If I remember, it was a Flamrose beverage factory. Well, looks like there's a shelter coming up. I will take a break here. Over this part of the river, or perhaps it was the Whampoa River, there used to be a big timber yard, and you could find, I remember seeing logs floating on very brackish water, bad smell. Timber yard, I read, belonged to a kind of a rich English-speaking Chinese businessman there called, I think it's Mr. Hu something. He's intricately related to Balestier as well, being a landowner in that area. Looks like a passing shower, so we can resume our walk. And ahead of us are the flats in the Bendemeer area. Pretty old ones, but many has been rebuilt, and some are newly constructed. They are now expensive properties, being along the Kallang River. As you can see, the PCNs or Park Connectors still need a lot of doing. We can't really walk by the riverside or canal side without walking out the main roads, getting across traffic lights, going up pedestrian bridges, and so forth. waiting to cross the traffic light. Well, this is all part of the Kolam Ayer waterfront, I think. The opposite bank is possibly more beautiful. Well, this part of the Kallang River takes us into the Kallang Basin proper as we know it today, where the sports hub, the Kallang MRT station is. And towards the right, there's a turning, the river turns into the Whampoa River. And this is where the Whampoa River sort of empties into the Kallang Basin. This is a better view of the confluence of the Kallang and the Whampoa River. Plenty of factories across the bank, and this is the Whampoa, I think they call it the Whampoa Connector, that takes us all the way into Balestier Estate. Good brisk walk, and we are back to Bendemeer Road with the Whampoa Estate across us. Those are some of the new HDB properties, or the more expensive city properties of HDB by the riverside too. Well, across Serangoon Road is the other section of the Whampoa River, but there's no pedestrian crossing here. The crossings ahead at St. George Road. St. George Road is a pretty old street. This whole area used to be a Eurasian enclave. St. George, St. Michael's, St. Francis. But now I think most of it are HDB estates. A couple of coffee shops that have existed a long time, but not by any sense historical. And this is the newly developed St. George HDB estate, a high value HDB property. Across the roads are the older HDB properties, but I guess they have their value upgraded as a result too. Well, this is something new to me, Special Olympics Singapore building, I guess. And St. George's West Garden across the road. Takes us back to the Whampoa Connector and the Whampoa Canal or river. Oh no, we're still not at Balestier. This is only the Whampoa Community Club. The river is pretty muddy after just a bit of rain. It's always like that. Oh, it's block 81. Isn't this the way to the Whampoa food court? I can almost smell the food. Yes, it is. So, we are in Balestier anyway. Whampoa food court is in Balestier. Whatever anybody says. Welcome to the Wandering Tortoise channel. The channel is about my walks around Singapore and everywhere else. I started walking during COVID time and found it so enjoyable. Lost a lot of weight as a result of walking. So I thought I'll just record my walks for the enjoyment of everyone else. Some of my friends tell me it's boring. Others say it's informative and interesting. And at worst, people say, oh, it's something good to watch to go to sleep. Whatever the reason is, I thank you for watching.